Chapter 3, Concept 1 deals with adding and subtracting fractions. Make sure you have your 3.1 notes before we start. Okay, so a few things before we get started is number one, that you need to remember what the top and bottom of a fraction is called. We refer to the top as the numerator, and we reviewed this in the last chapter. And we refer to the bottom as the denominator. So please write both of those down so you remember them, because I will be using the words numerator and denominator instead of top and bottom. Now, when adding fractions, I know you guys have learned this before. Let's just review kind of the process of how you should add and subtract fractions. Step number one, find a common denominator if necessary. So find a common denominator if necessary. So what that means is you look at the bottom numbers. If they're the same, step one is done. If they are different, you need to find a number that they can both go into evenly. So if you had 5 and 6, your common number could be 30. If you had 2 and 6, your common number could be 6, or it could be 12, or it could be 18. There's endless numbers that you could put for a common denominator, but we always try to go with the smallest one possible. Now, if you had to get a common denominator, the next step would be to rename the numerator if you change the denominator. You can't just go, okay, the denominator was a 3 and now it's a 6 and the top stays the same. That completely changes the fraction. So whatever you multiplied the denominator by, you must also multiply the numerator by as well. Step 3, add or subtract the numerators. Keep denominator. So whatever that common denominator was, we keep that on the bottom. And finally, the last step with all fractions, you don't even need to ask me if you should do this, is to simplify if needed. That means reduce the fraction if necessary. If you do not reduce a fraction correctly in the answer, I will have to take points off of your final answer. So please keep that in mind. It's very important that you reduce your fractions. So let's go ahead and practice a few together and then a couple on your own. 7/10 minus 1/10. Are the denominators the same? 10 and 10. Yeah. So then we get to completely skip step 1 and 2 and go to step 3. It's add or subtract the numerators. 7 minus 1 is 6. Keep the denominator. And the last step is simplify if needed. Is there a number that goes into 6 and 10? The answer is yes, it is 2. So we need to divide 6 and 10 by 2, and we would come up with 3/5. So the answer to the problem, 7/10 minus 1/10, is 3/5. Let's try addition. 2/5 plus 4/5. The denominators are the same, so add the numerators. 2 plus 4 is 6. Keep the denominator of 5. Now, can you reduce the fraction? No. Some of you are going to go, oh, it's a mixed, or it's an improper fraction. Make it a mixed number. I don't want you to do that anymore. In math, from here on out, you get to leave improper fractions. And it's going to be very hard for some of you to remember. Trust me, I know. But yeah, you don't have to do mixed numbers anymore, okay? The only time I would recommend leaving a mixed number answer is if it is a story problem or if the problem originally had mixed numbers, which we will get to tomorrow. On number 3, 2/5 plus 1/3. The denominators are not the same this time. So we need something that 5 and 3 will both go into. What's the smallest number? 15. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to have a fraction bar with a 15 under it. Bring the plus sign along. fraction bar with a 15 under it. What did you multiply 5 by to get to 15? The answer is 3. So take 2 times 3, and this numerator is now going to be 6. What do you multiply 3 by to get to 15? The answer is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 over 15 plus 5 over 15 equals 11 over 15. What goes into 11 and 15? Nothing. So that's our answer. All right, just a couple more together. On to number 4. 1/3 minus 5/6. Denominators are not the same, so what can 3 and 6 both go into? 6 is the best choice, but you could pick 12, and you can always multiply these and you'd get 18. But I'm going to go with 6 because it's the smallest number. So I'll put fraction bar 6 minus fraction bar 6. How do you multiply 3 to get to 6? You multiply it by 2. 1 times 2 gives you 2 up here. How do you multiply 6 to stay 6? Well, that's that identity property. You multiply by 1, so 5 times 1 is 5. Now, we've got 2 minus 5. Well, remember guys, 2 apples, take 5 away. You can't do that. So this is one of those integer, one of those negative number problems. So 2 minus 5 would be negative 3 over, keep the denominator of 6. And can 3 over 6 reduce? Definitely. You can divide them both by 3, and you would get negative 1 over 2. Now, some people get a little confused about that negative sign. That negative can go in the numerator, the denominator, or it can go right out here in between the numerator and denominator. Me personally, I like to put the negative sign, if it has one, up in the numerator so I don't get confused. Okay, guys and girls, let's do one more together, and then you're going to finish these on your own. Let's look at number 5. 4/5 plus 2/3, not common denominators. What do you think it'll be? The answer is 15. So, I'll put 15 plus 15. Fill in what you think goes in the numerator for both, and then look up here and see if you agree with mine. Check yours with mine. I've shown you up here what you should have multiplied by. Now, let's add them together and see what we get. I've come up with 22 over 15. 22, the only thing that goes into it would be 2, 11, and 22. None of those numbers will go into 15. So this is completely simplified, and we are not going to turn it into a mixed number. This is going to be the answer for number 5. Okay, we've practiced 5 together. I want you to try the next 4 on your own, pause the video, and check back with me when you're done. Check your 4 answers. Number 6 is 11 over 12. Number 7, 5 over 8. Number 8, 1/2. And number 9, 9/20ths. Keep in mind, guys and girls, you might have done your work differently than me. I always get the lowest common denominator. And if you don't get the lowest, you are going to have to reduce at the end. Like right here, 4 and 6. Many people probably picked 24, where I picked 12. If you pick 24, yours probably says 22 over 24 equals 11 over 12. So just keep that in mind. Our goal is to pick the lowest common denominator, but no matter which one you pick, as long as you do the work correctly, you'll get the right answer in the end. Okay, you've got 4 practice problems, and I expect the work on the back side of your paper. So please make sure you do that, because if you don't show work on these, I can't give you credit for completing your notes. Good luck, and